This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Hey, what's up, everyone? We are back with episode 2 of our podcast where Ben and I bring you information and Jim's opinions don't matter. Hey, guys.
Love you, Sam.
Yeah, I love you more. How's it going, guys? What have you been doing the last couple of weeks?
Same old stuff. Trying to educate the youth.
That's good. Good for you. But I'm assuming from an officiating standpoint, you've gone to your rules meeting, you've passed your test, paid your registrations.
We certainly all went to the meeting, the rules meeting, right? The clinic. What was it, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At Dallas Center Grimes, and I think there was like 150 officials in attendance, so that was pretty cool. But lots of emails and lots of things to do. You know, we've got to do our test. I haven't done that yet. I did print it off today. And, we've got to put in our availability for tournaments and things like that. So I'm behind the 8 ball, but probably do that next week is probably on my agenda.
Agreed. I've got a couple of things left to do on that too. So it was nice to hear too, Chuck Britton talk about there were around 140 new officials signed up this year, so that's awesome. We need that desperately.
Yeah, that's huge for sure. Yeah, so kind of a recap from a couple weeks ago. That podcast was really to get on and introduce ourselves. Talked about why we do what we do. And something that really stuck out to me was what Jim said, and that's the people you meet along the way. So we thought it'd be good to have Ben talk about a former partner of ours that was going through some tough times right now. We just wanted to give him a shout out. So Ben, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, when last episode we were kind of talking about why we officiate and what our favorite parts are really, and I think what the consensus for us is it's a family, right? Like we're friends, but we're also family, and we have that common bond of doing the officiating and hanging out together and driving and just going through the same battles on the floor that everybody else that's doing it is. And one of our favorite partners ever has been Dan Clayton, and I've known Dan. Yeah, there's a picture of us. I think that's from like 2017 at the state tournament. So that seems like eons ago. Yes. I think I was running half marathons and stuff back then. So
what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did that sort of thing once.
Wow.
Good for you. Jim's never even thought about it.
No way. Why would you run unless someone's chasing you?
Yeah. But Dan, we went to kind of rival schools. I'm from Earlham, and he was at Dexfield. And so kind of known about each other for a long time. And we started reffing together. He subbed for us, I think, in 2011 is what the records I found kind of said. And then really started full-time with us in 2013-14 season. After during the 18-19 season, he'd run with us then for, all those seasons. He met the love of his life and got married, that summer of 19. And so he moved up to Carroll. So it was a little harder for him to officiate with us. But Dan was always great with the story. That guy had more stories than almost anybody I know, and they were always hilarious. And one in particular I can think of that happened to us together. We were reffing down in Sheraton. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Sheraton, but it has, I would call it a historical kind of gym. I mean, it's old, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like Jim.
Yeah. It might be the only gym older than Jim. But we were down there. It's a different layout. It's in an old building, and they put you up to get dressed in a home ec room. And that night we happened to be there. It was one of the coldest nights of the season, and it was just freezing in that room. So Dan and I opened up the ovens from the home ec room and turned them on. And I couldn't find the picture, but he had to speed up, with it over the oven door, just trying to warm up before we went out on the court. Anyway, I say all this, and I kind of just wanted to touch base on this quickly. Is Dan found out that he had cancer on his tongue earlier this year, and this is going to be the first time in 28 years that he's not reffing to start the season, and I think things are going well for him, and he's hoping to maybe get back on the hardwood here after the first of the year. But he had to do looks like 40 radiation treatments and 8 chemo treatments on that cancer on his tongue, and so that really kind of tore up his throat, and he wasn't able to eat solid food for a long time. I want to say 2 or 3 months almost, and he's still kind of trying to battle through all that. But as of the other day, there were no visible signs of cancer, and he's got a scan coming up here in December where hopefully he'll find out that it's all gone. So anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to our brother, and Dan, we love you, and a little cheers to you tonight. So
Yep,
that's
you bet.
what officiating's all about.
Yep, thinking about you, Dan.
You better, Dan.
You better, man. Yep, for sure. All right, so we'll get into some points of emphasis this year. There's a few rule changes, 7 to be exact, that the NFHS is kind of highlighting. Last year was a big change with the shot clock, obviously. So now we've got 7 points of emphasis. So let's just kind of run down. Yeah.
Real quick on that, while we're talking about the shot clock, since you brought it up, there are no changes related to that. I think there was some thoughts that maybe we might change, resetting it with the kick or something like that. But the rules are going to be the exact same as last year with the shot clock. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep. So starting with the shot clock, rule revision number 1, which, when I read this one, I was like, well, duh. But if using a shot clock, the shot clock operator must be seated at the scorers and timers table. So I thought, well, duh, where else would he be? But then you guys brought up a great point. Like, what about some of the schools that don't have the room on the scorers table?
Right. We talked about that. Actually, we had a Bluegrass Conference athletic directors meeting today, and a lot of them really didn't know that. But we talked about it. The table that we had in our old gym was only big enough for 4 people. And we usually have 2 people running the clock, one doing the score, fouls, the other one doing the time. And then you've got your home and visitor scorekeepers there. So you've got options, I guess, is what we're looking at is you buy a bigger scorers table, which we did since we're building a new gym. I made sure we had one now that's 2 feet longer than the old one. Or the visiting book does not have to be at the bench. So you can put them off to the side, maybe on a table or something if you don't have the room. We kind of talked about, if we've got them in the vicinity there, right off the edge of the bench, maybe even in the back row or the row right behind them where we talked about, we're probably going to allow that right now because there's a lot of people who are probably trying to figure out or don't even know that they need to be on the bench.
Yeah, I wonder how many schools have had that communication, even, Jim, right? I mean, you obviously know it because you're an AD and an official, but sometimes we go to these places and those things aren't communicated. So are all of those buttons wireless now, or would there be some wired ones also?
The ones that we have because obviously we use Southeast Warren's gym right now. For those of you that don't know, we haven't had a gym this is on our 3.5 year. It is going to be done for next year, but theirs is not remote. It is plugged into it. So, but the cords are long enough that they can go they're probably a 12-foot cord on them, so they can go just about anywhere.
Okay. So I think that makes sense that, like you said, if the table's not quite big enough, they can surely be at least next to it or right behind. But obviously, I think, as we've seen through the year last year, that, everybody needs to be able to communicate that. We're all working together there with the scorekeeper and the timer and the shot clock. So that'll be, I think that's a way better thing, that we probably have never really thought about.
Yeah, agreed. I hopefully it shouldn't be too big of an issue. Just one of those things that's out there that probably a lot of ADs don't know. Coaches maybe not telling them from watching the rules meeting. So it's going to take a while for it to get out there.
Yeah, for sure. So rule revision number 2, teammates may wear multiple styles of uniform bottoms. For example, skirt, shorts, pants, but they must be a light color.
Again, I think that's for, sometimes, especially smaller schools, maybe don't have the number of uniforms that they might need for a certain purpose, and they might have to wear a JV shorts as long as it's the same color. If the striping down the side is different, that's not going to be a big deal as long as the main color matches. I think that's what they did it for. Because like I say, sometimes you might have 15 uniforms, but you have different sizes of girls than maybe you had the year before, and a pair of shorts may not fit as well, and they can wear a JV set or an older set, and it'll work out this year.
Ben has 15 officiating uniforms in his suitcase.
Yeah, he brings them all with him every time too, because like they say, the suitcase, like we said, has to go sideways through the doors when we go into the gyms, and that's a double door.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome when one of you guys forget your shit this year. And guess who comes to the rescue? And we're going to talk about it on the podcast.
The first one to swear on the podcast right there.
So
cheers.
The first time I put on my pants every year, it's like suck in a little bit. So I'm probably going to be the one that pops a button, and then I'll have to come to Ben and can I have one of your 15 pairs of pants?
There's a price now, asshole.
Just bring a pair of pliers, because a lot of them have that little clip, that clasp, right? That you slide in there. So we'll just have to get them on and crank it down with a pair of pliers, and we'll be good.
I got $2 in the truck.
Yeah, it'll work. We'll make it work.
Ben, do you have thoughts on that revision?
I don't. No, I really don't.
Pants. I don't either. I mean, I'd rather not wear pants, so I don't know why any of them would want to wear pants, but it's all good.
Hey, I just want you to know here in the comments, I'm watching a little bit over here on Facebook Live. Three Beards Media says Jim's the man. I think it's because of my nice Revelton shirt, but just wanted you guys to know that.
Speaking of that, thanks, Jim. I don't agree that Jim's the man, but I do want to give a shout out to Three Beards Media and also our sponsor, Revelton, for making this possible. So let's move on to number 3.
I'm drinking Revelton right now.
Same.
Nice.
Undershirts worn under visiting team jerseys may be black or the single solid color similar to the torso of the jersey. All teammates wearing undershirts must wear the same solid color.
This is my least favorite thing to do in a basketball game is to have to worry about being fashion police.
I totally agree. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. Right.
But I know, and as Chuck said at the clinic, that is our job because it's a rule. But I do like that they made this, and because I understand we have maroon jerseys at Melcher Dallas. Sometimes it's hard to find a maroon undershirt that matches, and all kids getting the same one. They can all wear black now, but they need to make sure, coaches out there need to make sure, if they're wearing black under that dark jersey, that all of them have to wear black. It can't be 1 or 2 with maroon and 3 or 4 with black. They all have to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you guys. I hate being the fashion police. It's like literally my least favorite thing about officiating usually. But honestly, if all of us officials just knock this out of the park like the first week, then we're not going to have to deal with it again. If we just see somebody that's wrong, just go up to them and say, Coach, it's got to be this. Please change it. That way they know. Because every time we do it halfway through the season, 3/4 of the way through the season, I've never heard that before. Well,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter if anybody's told them that or not. A lot of them will say, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Right. Even though they just the night before were told to take them off. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Coaches are liars, right?
Whoa.
I didn't say that.
Jeez. Mic drop in a second. Hey, this one's a biggie. I think we can spend some time on this one. So the 1-and-1 is gone. Right? So 2 free throws are awarded for a common foul, beginning with the team's 5th foul in each quarter, and team fouls reset at the end of each quarter. So that's a big change. I mean, in my opinion.
And I like it. Because, how many times have we been in the first quarter and we've had 7, 8 fouls and we're shooting those, and, they may adjust to it and they only get 3 more the rest of the half. So now if they get 7 in the first quarter, they wipe off, and hopefully the second quarter they learn what we're calling, and maybe we don't get into the bonus. But I don't know if people know why they did that. They talked about research shows that most injuries, or there were a lot of injuries happening on free throws. So eliminating a 1-and-1 gets rid of that 2 chances of having something happen on a free throw. And so hopefully there's less free throws in the game.
I think in Iowa, this would be a little more familiar, I think, because of the interest in women's D1 basketball last year. Basically, we're doing the same rules as they have.
Yeah.
And I think because of the Iowa and Iowa State women's basketball teams, we were all paying attention last year. And so it should be familiar, but it's going to be new to everybody in high school. And I don't know. I'll be curious. I'm not sure how much injuries or anything we've seen or what. But I'll be curious to see how the changes coaching philosophies, or how they go about if you're down at the end of the game or in the third quarter, right? It's going to be a little bit different. So I'm just curious to see how it kind of plays out.
Agreed.
So Jim, you kind of mentioned, you weren't exactly sure why they did it. So I found a rationale from the NFHS, and it just highlights improved flow by providing an opportunity for teams to adjust their play, not carrying over the fouls, reducing the opportunity for correctable errors to occur, and then also minimize the risk on 1-and-1 rebounding.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, when you got 1-and-1s and, a lot's on the line, tippers are kind of flaring, there can be some kind of funny stuff that happens in a 1-and-1 situation. So you just take an opportunity out of the situation. So
yep,
that's
agreed.
Fair.
Yeah.
But
well, and like I say, the nice thing, I think hopefully coaches and players adjust. That because we all know that all officials call the game different crews call it different ways. And, if kids adjust to it, hopefully, we do have less free throws and better flow of the game. And I think it'll be good for everybody.
So how many fans do you think? So first time we call a common foul, that's the 5th foul, and we go to the line to shoot free throws. How many fans do you think are about ready to come out of the stands with pitchforks and
for at least the first 2 weeks?
Yeah,
all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Every game for the first 2 weeks. Probably.
All of them except the ones that are watching our podcast.
Yeah. Probably the first.
That's only 5.
Probably the first quarter, the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter of the first game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And then Jim's dad voice will come out. Don't make me use my dad voice.
Can you explain that a little more, Sam? What the why we call Jim Dad?
Don't say it's just because I'm old.
I don't know if I've really known. I've just always called him Dad. Why don't you tell it then?
Well, it's just because he gets angry about half a quarter to a quarter in. I assume it's probably because lack of oxygen.
Oh,
But
you are right. It's kind of like we come together after a quarter. I'm done with that. I'm done.
yes. And if we talk to a kid or whatever and try to tell them something and they're not listening, Jim just goes, all right, it's on. And Dad comes out and he makes everything right for us. And
Yeah, I just tell them, hey guys,
200.
we're not doing this tonight. Does everybody understand that? And we move on. I mean, hey, I'm old school. I expect it to be some of them to be a little bit more respectful than they are.
Did it work for your kids?
You know them. I mean, you have one you hired. She's working for you. So yeah, they're all good kids, right?
Shout out Lexi.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Lex.
Shout out to Lexi. She's a lot like you.
So coaches and players, if you see Jim's head get red, back it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a bull.
Move on to the next one.
Okay, number 5. When a team is retaining or gaining team control in its front court due to a violation, a common foul prior to the bonus, or other stoppages in play, other than out of bounds, the ball will be inbounded from one of the 4 designated throw-in spots. Parentheses, the nearest 28-foot mark along each sideline, or the nearest spot 3 feet outside the lane line on the end line.
So you want your diagram up now?
End quote.
There we go.
Perfect. So I don't know how many, if coaches even know this or fans would know this, but, in a normal game, that top picture there, any sort of violation, foul, whatever it might be, we would just go pretty much to the nearest spot, right? And that's kind of what that top is showing. And that'll stay the same for out of bounds violations. So anywhere we have an out of bounds, it's still going to go to the location basically where it went out at. So that's what that first top diagram kind of shows. The rule really is about front court, right? So that's the bottom diagram there. And so again, kind of like the college game, it's only given us 4 spots on a foul, violation, held ball, or other stoppage that's basically not out of bounds. And we're going to go at the 28-foot mark, or we're going to go 3 feet outside the lane on each side. So
yeah, and 28-foot mark, that should be the coach's box line, correct?
Yep, I believe so.
So, because I had a question the ADs asked today at the meeting was, do we have to mark that on the floor? Already should be. Should you have to mark it on the other side? Well, if we can't look across the floor and see where that 28-foot mark is across the floor, then, something's wrong with this. But yeah, we just, general area there. And 3 foot outside the lane, I think we can all figure that out pretty easy too.
Yeah, so on the baseline, like you're saying, Jim, I like Chuck's analogy at the rules meeting. He's like, if you don't know what 3 feet is, take COVID, 6 feet, and cut it in half. That's 3 feet.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't
think that'll be. I mean, I think that's a good rule. I mean, honestly, it kind of takes some thinking out of it for the official.
I think it spaces the floor a little bit better in the front court too when we have that stuff.
Yeah.
Jim, when you talked with your ADs, is there I guess we didn't talk about, there's not going to be an actual line on the baseline for those two spots, is there?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if you wanted to, you could easily, take gym floor tape and put it down there. But, I say a 3 foot area. I think we ought to all be able to know what 3 foot is, get the player to where they need to be, and hand them the ball.
Well, that's another thing for Ben to add to his suitcase, some painter's tape. Stick a roll in there.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the beautiful floors that we see.
It's painter's tape. It comes up clean.
It'd be my luck. It would pull up the wood or something.
We done with that one?
I think so. I think people are going to get used to that fairly easy. And I don't think even when we do have those calls where we put it in bounds, I think most coaches might know. I don't know that many fans they're gonna ball goes out of bounds. They're watching.
That's
the
a
play.
Good point. That's a good point, Jim. Like fans don't give a crap where you inbound it from.
No, they just care who is inbounding.
They're just like, whose ball is it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And don't you dare make a mistake and point the wrong direction.
Yes.
Because they'll let you know about it. I'm sorry. My error. Okay, number 6. What? You say something, Ben?
Go ahead. No, go.
When an official administers a throw-in to the wrong team, the mistake can be corrected before the first dead ball after the ball becomes live unless there's a change of possession. So correctable error.
I mean, without going into the whole correctable errors rules, which really I'm not sure coaches would even know, fans would know. It's just one of those that's kind of more specific for officials, really.
So this is one of.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. This is one of those that I think about that. It's like there's a lot of things that have to happen for this error to occur, and there's 3 of us. So I feel like the error should be caught before it's actually administered. But I guess it's just a catch.
Fail safe. Yeah.
Well, what the rule change basically is before, if you handed it in bounds to the wrong person, once the ball got in live ball, we no longer could change that. And now we can.
Yep.
Through the first dead ball, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So the 7th one and the last one, this one, this will take some getting used to, I think, from an officiating standpoint. So a player may step out of bounds without penalty unless the player is the first to touch the ball after returning to the court, or if the player left the court to avoid a violation. So basically it's if you go out of bounds voluntarily, you can't be the first to touch it when you come back in.
Right. And I think people, go ahead, Ben.
I think this was probably under officiated in the past.
Always.
Like you basically, anytime they went out of bounds without being forced, it should have been a violation, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think that was enforced probably much at all. But essentially then now they can go out of bounds. They just can't touch it. So it's a little bit like football in that regards, right, Sam?
Yeah, for sure. Ben, did you ever see or find if there's a hand signal for first touch? Because I was looking and I haven't found anything. So I mean that's something we'll have to go to maybe some higher ups than us and ask what they want us to use for a first touch violation.
Yep.
So
I would guess we're just going to kill the clock, and use our voices, right? First touch, that's that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely keep looking, and we'll bring that up on a future pod if I find it.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, that's all the points of emphasis for this year. Be a good time to hear from our sponsor, Revelton. So we'll be back in just a minute. Nice, Jim.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
Jim, you were at Revelton a couple weeks ago, weren't you?
Yeah, we went down there and bought a bottle so we could have it show on the podcast. And I thought, what the heck? Why not buy a shirt? And if you've never been to that place, that thing is cool. And
Nice.
I said, Lexi, my daughter, talked to me about it after that and said that she's been down there before and even have live music, I believe, sometimes. So, got a chance, go down and see it because it's a really neat place.
Nice. Cool.
We need to
Jim.
make sure we get down there.
Jim,
Oh, yeah.
you know what it's time for?
Tell me.
It's time for Fool's Rules.
Fool's Rules. This is going to be a segment that we have on here on our show every other week that we have. And it's basically, we wanted to call it something. So misunderstood rules is what we want to talk about because we hear from the crowd all the time about, when they think we missed something and they really don't know what the rule is. So we want to try to educate some people on that and make them understand it better. So the first one we're going to talk about this week is a backcourt violation. So we all know that the team has 10 seconds to bring it up the backcourt to get into the front court. Shot clock makes that much easier. We get to have a little bit of try to put one eye on that. And when it hits 25, the ball's not across or touched across, we've got a violation. Okay. So that one's pretty easy, but we have so many times where a dribbler will come up to the half court line, take one step across and come back with it. And everybody in the crowd yells over and back. And we all know as officials, it's not. There's three things that have to happen. Both feet and the ball have to be in the front court before they have front or have established front court status. So until that happens, they can dribble the ball over it all they want to, pull it back. They get both feet in the ball over, then they cannot come back into the back court. So, once they get across, basically what we've talked about before, that half court line for the offense is like an out of bounds line. Can't step on it. They can't go across it, can't throw it back there. So that's the first part of the rule I think most people don't understand is both feet and the ball must cross that half court line before they have front court status. So I know there's things we can add on that, so I'm going to let you guys take over some of this.
One thing I would bring up is that a throw-in is a little bit different on that, right?
Yes.
That's one of our exceptions. Essentially, during a throw-in, this is right from the rule book here, a player may legally jump from the player's front court, secure control of the ball with both feet off the floor and return to the floor with one or both feet in the backcourt. The player may make a normal landing, and it makes no difference whether the first foot down is in the front court or back court. So that's one of the exceptions. That's also on a jump ball, as we start the game, basically, too. So those are kind of our two exceptions, really, to that rule. Again, that some people may not know. Sam, anything to add on that?
Just, Jim, you alluded to the shot clock gives you a little bit easier. It assists you with the 10-second count.
Yes.
Which just a point I would mention is if you have a kicked ball or ball goes out of bounds in the backcourt, say there's 32 seconds left on the shot clock. I know one thing that we have done is just to get eye contact, everybody, and just give hey, our new 10. Whoa, Jim, what's happening to you?
I don't know. I've got some sprinkles going on there, and I don't know how that
Our-
happened.
Our new 10 count is from 32 to 22. So, but yeah.
There will not be sprinkles when we do that, but that was cool.
That was cool. So your birthday?
It's not. Hey, it did it again. Look at that stuff. I have no idea, but that's fun. I'm going to do that more often. Let's see. Huh. And nobody knows how that's happening.
So there must be a magic word or something, right?
Yeah. And one thing on that
Or
also
a magic age.
that this is a common mistake too, is if a player, for example, is in the back court with the ball moving to the front court, passes to a player who is in the front court, but he jumps in the air, secures the ball in the air, and lands in the back court. We now have a back court violation over and back because he had front court status. He doesn't have back court status until he lands on the court. So if he does catch that one in the air from a pass that's already inbounds, we do have a violation.
Yep.
Why don't you talk a little bit about first touch, last touch, that type of stuff, Jim?
Okay, so the rule that, again, on this part, this has a lot of pieces to it that commonly are misunderstood. If I'm playing defense, ball's already in the front court, and I tip the ball into the back court, anybody can go and get it, and it's good. If the offense goes back and gets it, we are going to start a 10-second count, and they are going to bring it back into the front court and have all that good stuff. If I'm the defense and I tip it and it hits off of the offensive player's leg while he's still in the front court, then goes into the back court, the offense cannot be the first to touch the ball. If they do, it's over and back. Okay? So now I would tell my offensive player, I guess if I was coach, to make sure you still go and get it because it's going to be a violation. You don't want just to stop and let the defense take the ball because it's still live. Defense gets it, takes it, can go for a layup. So they can go get it, but it's going to be a violation.
And I think one main thing to remember on that is team control, right? Well, the other team touched the ball. Well, they didn't control it, though. That's
right.
The difference in that play, essentially. So,
Yep. I mean, you always hear from the crowd, defense tipped it. They did. They tipped it right off of the offensive player. He was the first one to touch it. It's a violation. It is just how the rule reads. So, nothing you can do about that.
Jim, maybe allude to, for any viewers that might not know, we use the term front court and back court.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Front court is basically your court where you're shooting the basketball at. Your back court is the half of the court where you are playing defense, basically. So that half the court is your back court as you're bringing it up. We have the mid court line or the center line. Once you get it across there, that is the front court. So where you're shooting the ball at is the front court. That's a good call because we use those terms and we think everybody should know that, and they don't.
Yep.
And certainly, as we've kind of mentioned before, if any of you have questions or comments while we're doing this, feel free to hit us up on social media, or we'll try to answer them even afterwards if you continue, if we have more discussion online afterwards too. So if there's anything we're saying that doesn't make sense, just holler.
Yeah, even just put a comment out there that you maybe want to hear something next week or in future podcasts, to put something on the Three Beards Media page where it's being recorded, and if you watch it later, find out something, or you want to know something, let us know, and we'll try to get to it sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Fool's Rules is gonna be fun because there are so many, and as we get into the season, we'll start to hear what about this, what about that, and I think we're gonna have so many so many things to bring to that segment.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And you think, we've put some down already for the future podcast, and you may think, oh, we're going to run out, but we're not going to, because there's going to be something that we're going to hear in a game, and we're probably at the next timeout or whatever. We're going to go and, hey, remember, we got to talk about that rule in the next podcast. So yeah,
and the best part of this podcast is the season's starting, so we're going to have so much more material, talking about road trips, funny things that we see. So yeah. Yep. It'll stick with us, people. This is about to get good. Hang on for the ride.
Yeah. Hang on for the ride. Why don't you talk about what you purchased last week?
Yeah, so it's like a GoPro camera. So we're going to take that on the road. We're going to get footage, edit it, obviously.
Definitely edit a lot of pieces of it.
Yeah. But we're going to take that on the road. We're going to show you behind the scenes stuff, some of the stupid stuff we say to each other. Maybe we'll have Jim wear it on his chest sometime walking into a school. I don't know. The Jim's eye view.
I think it'd be interesting to show people sometimes the rooms that we have, or the space that we have for three of us to get ready.
Yes. Some are interesting.
And let's I think, people,
go ahead.
Yeah. And I think there's a future podcast topic is best gyms to work in, worst gyms to work in, things like that. So, because I know we have tons of different things we feel about different places, and we talked about last week, like Lennox has the best shower in the world, right? So
I love that shower.
At least
shout out to Mandy. I love that shower.
At least that's what Scott Giles thinks. I mean, it pretty much exfoliates you because it peels the first layer of skin off.
It feels good. You got to get the right temperature, and then it's perfect.
Yeah, right. If you put it too hot, it would take skin right off.
Yes, no doubt. So
fantastic.
Hey Ben, when we were talking about starting this podcast, didn't you have somebody say that we should rate the popcorn or something?
Yeah, I think Chuck actually brought that up, and I think when he was out watching officials, he would try to do that. And I don't know if he did it on Twitter or what, but he said that'd be a good idea. And I think, maybe that's it. Maybe we throw that out to all the schools we're coming to, is like, we want sure. We'll come back to that comment, but maybe we throw that gauntlet out to the ADs, and we're gonna, before we wrap up tonight, we're gonna tell you where we're coming to over the next 2 weeks here before our next podcast. But maybe that's something so maybe that's something we say, hey, we want a popcorn in each place, and we're gonna start rating these things, and you're going to want to be at the top of that because everybody's going to hear about it, right? So,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And any bonus food or drink we get before or after the game is even that much better. So might help your rating.
Well, that was whoops. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like sometimes what you'll get or what you won't get, right? Because I went to a school one time, small school. They were having a spaghetti supper. And game was over, and they were like, hey, why don't you come in the classroom and eat spaghetti? I really got to get home. They sent me with a whole entire to-go container of spaghetti, salad, garlic bread. I'm like, holy smokes, this is awesome. I've also been to places where I could barely get a water.
Yep.
I mean, you see this side and that side.
Yeah. The popcorn story reminds me of when I was coaching football way back in the day. Sam, you don't remember these, but where we actually sent someone to scout the next opponent instead of watching huddle and all that stuff. We sent somebody. And
who was that?
Oh yeah, that's a long time ago. But Coach Nelson, who was actually my assistant coach when I played at Melcher Dallas, and then he was an assistant coach for me for a while. And when he got out of coaching, I talked him into going and scouting. The best scout ever. I mean, he'd have the plays broken down. It was just he would he would diagram 20 plays before the game started. He would watch the team warm up. But I'd always get to the last page of it, and he would always rate the concession stand food. So, if you're wanting people to know how good your popcorn, your concession stand is, we're your guys.
Love it.
So Jim, let's I'm gonna take your officiating hat off and I'm gonna put your AD hat on.
Okay.
So say you're hosting a basketball game one night, and officials come, kind of walk us through like what your night is with officials during breaks. And
yeah, it's being an official probably makes it different for me because I know what I would like to see when I'm going places, but I try to make sure I've got everything set up in the gym so I know that they're coming usually 45 minutes to an hour before the game. So I'm trying to wait in the lobby area and meet them when they get here. And I meet them, bring them into the locker room. Usually there's a refrigerator or at least a cooler in there with at least, I usually have like 9 waters and candy bars in there for them. So I don't have to, they don't have to keep asking if they can have another water or whatever. Water is 50 cents, 25 cents a bottle if you go buy the big pack. So why you say I'm so serious? I'm just telling you, this is the way.
I'm so serious.
And then half times and that I try to make sure I'm there to lead them off the floor to their locker room so we don't have anything happen there. After the game, definitely I'm there to get them to the locker room. I want to make sure they're comfortable, they feel safe, and they want to come back. So and we try to at the end of the night in the concession stand, if they've got something left over, I tell whoever's running the concession stand, hey, if you got any hot dogs or the pulled pork sandwiches that they're having right now, if you got anything left over, save 2 or 3 depending on volleyball or basketball, and so the officials can have something to eat. So we try to treat them as well as we can and make them want to come back.
What are you doing during the game, Jim, if you're an AD?
What am I doing during the game? I'm usually in one of the doorways leading into the gym, making sure that our fans are behaving appropriately. Go down by our student section every once in a while and make sure their cheers and chants are positive and not negative towards the other team. Just trying to, take it all in, watching our coaches, see how they're reacting to officials. You really don't get to watch the game a whole lot. You do get to, but you're really kind of making sure everything around you is going the way you want it to go.
That's good stuff. I think we're kind of tongue in cheek a little bit on this, that, we don't need a lot, but we'd like a little bit of attention and a water and maybe a candy bar. And if there's food, that's great, but it's not absolutely necessary. We understand budget constraints and different things, but just act like we're there to help out a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just like that I try to always be there to greet them at the door. I mean, how many times have we went into a facility and nobody's there to show us to where we're going? Most of the time we know where we're going by now because we've been to those places before, but sometimes it's different.
That's a good point, Jim. Like, what if you're a new official, right? And you get to, once we've been around the block a few times, we know, hey, if we're going here, we know to use this door, blah, 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 and use the locker room. But if you're a new official, that can be intimidating. Like, 1, not knowing where to park, 2, not knowing what door to go in, 3, not knowing who to talk to when you get there, and 4, where's the locker room?
Yeah. Well, I try to.
So
the officials usually email us ahead of time. Now, some of them don't, but we always do. But if they email me ahead of time and got some questions, or even not, right now we're playing at Southeast Warren. Say, hey, we're at Southeast Warren. I'll be there in the lobby to take you to your room. But yeah, there's some, they don't know what door to even come into, where to park, whatever. So, it's nice as an AD to just send out an email to them and say, hey, I've got you coming. If I don't hear from them before, I will send an email out to the officials and say, hey, you're coming to our place on Friday night. We're at Southeast Warren. And, just tell them anything if we have the senior night or something going on, little kids basketball at halftime, so they know what's going on when they get there.
Yep.
I think it's also important from the standpoint if something goes wrong, an injury, maybe it's a bad fan, right? Knowing who you are and where you're going to be so that we're not kind of left on an island by ourselves.
Yes, and if our principal, which she's usually there, sometimes our superintendent is there too, and I will say to them, hey, if you don't see me around here, this is our principal and this is our superintendent. So, I might be out in the lobby taking care of something. I might be doing something else, but, our principal and I are usually at every home game.
Got it. Nice.
Cool.
Do most officials get there an hour prior, Jim?
Most of them, I would say, are 45 minutes at least. I don't have any that are usually less than that because I'll be honest with you, if they're less than 45, when it gets to that 30-minute mark, I'm calling, even though I may have contacted with them already, because that is the worst feeling to think you don't have officials coming to your game tonight.
Hey, I don't get to that 30-minute mark. Don't even look at me, Jim.
No, I'm not, but you kind of sometimes push things a little bit, but we're thinking you're going to turn over a new leaf this year. You're going to be everywhere 5 minutes early than what you were previous. We're hoping. So we're looking for good things out of you, Sam.
Here's what Ben's learned. If we're leaving at 4:30, he tells me 4:10.
Yep, that's a good idea. It's a good idea.
I've gotten smarter.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. So
we need to mention where we're going, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting close, right? I believe the first actual game date is next Friday, the 17th, I believe. But we do not have a game that night. But this coming Tuesday, the 14th, we're going to Norwalk. We're going to do JV varsity girls at 4:30. That's a scrimmage, actually, but good to get up and down the floor and just kind of get the kinks out before we hit regular season. The following Monday, we kind of fire up, heading to Central Decatur down in Leon for a boys' jamboree, and that'll be 3 halves of basketball. First game is Central Decatur against I-35. And then we'll do Mount Air against Mormon Trail. And then I believe Wayne against Lamoni is the current schedule.
Yep.
So is that on Monday, Ben?
Yes.
Yep, Monday the 20th.
It's on that schedule that I sent to you, that thing you're supposed to fill out, but I put all your stuff in already.
Yeah. Well,
Hopefully Sam's there with us.
Yeah.
Just put it on my calendar. Yep. Looks like I'm available.
And then Tuesday night is really the regular season opener for us. And that'll be Tuesday the 21st. We're at Pella. That'll be a JV varsity girls contest against Mount Pleasant. I believe that's a 5:30 tip.
It is. It is. I noticed that was different.
Yep. So that's a little earlier than normal. And we'll, of course, confirm that with the AD. But I think if, our normal schedule holds up and we do maybe a podcast the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or sometime that week. I'm not sure. We haven't really figured that out. Those will be our 3 kind of dates that we're on the court, before our next podcast. And so I think, our going forward with some of the things we've talked about doing with the Fools rules and Jim's eye view with the camera and different things.
Jim's eye view.
Jim's eye view of the gym
for you.
That's right. I think we'll try to review, plays or different things that have happened, while we've been gone those 2 weeks. And it may be from those games. It might be clips we've seen, from other games. It might be college stuff. I think
maybe not even basketball.
Right. We've talked a lot about the sideline play in the Iowa State football game this weekend. Obviously, the fair catch with
he wasn't
Cooper.
out of bounds, and it wasn't a fair catch.
Exactly. And I think we'd probably all agree on those things.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of ways to go with that. So that's kind of our plan, and then we'll update where we're going each week, as
Hey,
much
Jim,
as we can.
if we put that camera that close to your heart, will it affect it?
I don't have a pacemaker.
I didn't ask if you had a pacemaker. I just asked.
Okay, so one thing that you guys haven't mentioned, which I can't believe yet, what is the first thing that you guys always look for inside the gym?
Paddles.
The AED, right?
We look for AEDs, and
Yeah.
it's a joke, but it's serious too.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you've had 2 heart attacks already, you never know when it's going to happen. But
But to be fair, we do know, I think, of at least 2 situations, I think in the last 5 years, of officials going down and other officials or people there reviving them. They lived.
Wasn't Jamie Brugman one of them that
he helped
revived
out
somebody? Yeah.
I
Jamie's a
just
great
want
guy.
you to know,
Shout out
Sam,
to Jamie.
if it comes down to mouth to mouth, just don't.
Dude, I'm only
just
doing
let him go.
concessions. That's it. If I don't have a mouth dam, you're done.
Oh, well, I've got one at
All
school.
day.
I've got one at school. I'll put it in the bag and make sure you have it in your back pocket.
You want me to put it in my suitcase?
Yeah, well, yeah. Of course.
Why don't you get a case from Amazon? 50 of them.
I don't know if we can fit it in there or not.
Is there an expiration date on those things?
Hey,
with all of Sam's gum?
That we need to make sure we mention, I'm not sure we did here, that's on the side of our chat, that Revelton is doing a live show this Saturday at the Revelton, not this Saturday, excuse me.
Wait.
December 9th.
December 9th, live show from noon to 2 with some of the different podcasts. We will not be able to be there. Some of you guys will be reffing somewhere. I have a family Christmas that night, but we want to give a shout out there to Revelton Distillery. They're going to be hosting a live podcast from noon to 2 p.m. on December 9th.
And I
Thanks,
think
Ben. I was going to be there, but can't anymore.
I think a lot of the podcasts from Three Beards are all going to try to have a little piece. And we may, I don't know, we do have a game at 1:00 that day, but maybe there's a way we could record a little bit on our way there or right when we get there or something. So we'll figure that out maybe. So,
yeah.
But we appreciate Revelton and their sponsorship for sure.
Absolutely. And hey, again, I know that Jim and Ben, you guys alluded to this, but if you're a young official that just has questions, or if you're someone who's been thinking about getting into it, it's not too late. So certainly reach out to us via social media or however you can get a hold of us. We're not scary. We're pretty good guys to talk to. So we want to use this podcast as not only an informational piece, but also maybe a recruiting piece for new officials, because we certainly need them. And like Ben alluded to, and Jim too earlier, just the brotherhood. So if there's anybody out there who has any interest in officiating, we'd love to kind of take you under our wing and bring you up and teach you stuff that we know. Not saying it's all good, but
some of it maybe you won't take away, but what we talked about too is, hey, if you're doing a game before us, a curtain raisers, JV game, and you want to stick around and you want to come in and listen to our pregame or even a halftime or whatever, more than welcome. Just come up and talk to us. We even talked about if you want to ride along with us to a game and see how things go, let us know. We would definitely encourage that, and I think you'd find out that it's a lot of fun.
Honestly, I almost feel like that is maybe the best way to kind of get a feel for how a night really goes and how fun it can be, right? I mean,
exactly.
The time on the court is intense, certainly, but there's so much time around that nobody thinks about, that we've talked about a lot, that I think that's a good way to get younger officials involved, is just like, come along, take a ride with us, see how it goes. And if you can't make it, or maybe have an interest but don't want to go on a trip yet, the places I mentioned, I'm sure, most schools now have live videos going on. So watch us, ask questions after the fact, whatever. So, like I said, we're going to Norwalk and Central Decatur and Pella here in the next 2 weeks, basically before Thanksgiving. So,
Yep. Cool. Anything else, guys?
I think we covered it for now.
Shout out to Andrew for putting our faces on here tonight. Appreciate you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
So, all right.
See if I can get that to go one more time. No.
Hey, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot for joining us. See you in a couple weeks.
Awesome.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.